Today I'm really excited and really honored to be able to be here. I'm not going to preach because, we have other great fathers around here, and I'm pretty sure you've heard so much about me talking. But we want to invite these fathers to have a great time. We're going to play some games because it's designed by Dad, so we're going to have a bit of fun. But we want to pick this father's brain in terms of what are some of the way that they become, how they father and how they raise their kids, but not in the typical world fashion, not in the way that, you read in books, read in articles, read by experts, but the way that they have been transformed by God. That's how we want to know how we father. And we're going to ask them to pull from their toolkits, right? Today's theme is Inside a Dad's Toolbox. So inside that toolbox, what are some of the wisdom, some practical insights that they can bring to this stage? Okay, so is everyone ready? Yeah. All right, so with that, I would like to invite the panelists, fathers. Please come forward here. Ben, Joasher, and Pastor Sean. And I think we have mics for all of them. Perfect. Happy Father's Day. All right. So before we begin, I think I also want to anchor us because the Bible is very interested in fathers. Right? There are instructions about how we become fathers in the Bible. So today's anchoring verse is in Ephesians chapter 6, verse 4. So can we bring it up? And let's read it together. All right, so 1, 2, 3. Fathers, do not provoke your children to anger, but bring them up in the discipline and instruction of the Lord. Right, the Bible prescribes an instruction. Say specifically, do not provoke them in anger, to discipline, to bring them up in discipline and the instruction of the Lord. And so we're going to hear today from our panelists in terms of how we actually do that, because there's a lot of big words out there. But before we begin, let's get to know our panelists right here. I'll start with Pastor Sean. Well, name, your family, how many kids, and how was your Father's Day? How did they spoil you today?
All right, my name is Sean, and I am married for coming to 19 years by early next year, and I have 4 children. My eldest 17, second 15, third is 11, and my last one is 8 years old. 2 boys, 2 girls. Okay.
Yeah.
Father's Day, how I've been spoiled, right?
Yes, spoiled.
My second daughter, and she has been giving me one Father's Day card a day since 3 days ago. Okay, so tonight she told me she will be giving me the greatest, grandest card during the dinner tonight.
Yes. Go on.
Okay. While as my eldest son, yesterday evening, he found out that today is Father's Day. And he looked at my wife and said, I didn't get anything wrong. Okay, so that is my Father's Day. Contrast, but great.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you. Thank you so much. This is Pastor Sean. So, Joasher.
Hello, my name is Joasher. So, I'm married for 13 years. I met my wife in the 2010 World Conference, EN World Conference. So I'm very excited for next year to go back to World Conference again.
Correct.
To thank God for the World Conference 2010, right? 18,000 people we met and we married for 13 years. We have 3 kids.
Wow.
So my eldest Spring daughter, 10 years old. Second Zoe, 7 years old. And third Asher, 3 years old. So how my Father's Day doing is quite busy. Like yesterday I was preaching in a church.
Yeah.
Then this morning I'm preaching in a church. Thank God Pastor Sean gave me a break. Suppose I also preach in the afternoon, but he asked Brother Fusang to preach. So I took a break. I attend service, I don't need to preach.
Wow.
So now I'm here.
Yes.
So it's a busy Father's Day.
Yeah. Come on.
But for children, I went to the church, I see my son, I say, can you say Happy Father's Day? He said no. Then he ran away. So that's my son, 3 years old.
Oh, wow.
But my daughter is very sweet. Of course, he see me Happy Father's Day, he gave me a card. He said, I prepared 2 cards for you. This is the first card. Then he gave and read it to me.
Wow.
And then he said, tonight I will have another card for you.
Wow.
Right? Then my elder daughter also, he said, I prepared just 1 card, but I'll give it to you tonight in the dinner. Yeah, so that's my Father's Day.
Awesome.
And my father was also joined me in the service just now, so great. Yeah.
Wow. Fantastic. All right. And lastly, we have...
Hi, my name's Ben. I am one of your brothers from Every Nation Church Rimbayu. So
Come on.
go church plants.
Woo!
I've been married for almost 24 years, going up on 24 years. I have one daughter who's with me here today. She is 18 and going to turn 19 in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 2 weeks, 3 weeks.
Yeah.
July 4th. So this is a marriage comment, not a fatherhood comment, but I'm American. My wife is Canadian. So my daughter was born in Canada on July 4th.
Oh.
Because marriage is about compromise, right? Father's Day morning, my wife let me order McDonald's Egg McMuffins. So that was my treat.
Come on.
And I got a card from my daughter, not one a day. So the bar...
It's time to push the standard
No
up,
judgment,
right? Yes.
no judgment.
No, is there not a competition? Not a competition.
We're actually very blessed to have our daughter in town because she's going to uni in Canada right now. So we were able to bring her back this summer. So, yeah.
Awesome, wonderful. I'm getting a theme here that daughters give cards and sons run away. I have a son. He did give me a card, but it was, I think, like 90% my wife's thing. And again, I think as part of my Father's Day gift, we did find out that we have a second one coming as well. So that's news for the church as well. All right, so, and I'm hoping it's a daughter, so I get cards every year. That's what I'm hoping. All right, so we are going to play a couple of games, but before that, I have an assistant. All right, can we all invite my lovely assistant coming up here? Yes. All right, so the first game we're gonna play is called Guess the Tool. So what you have to do is you'll be blindfolded. The assistant here will hand you a tool. I'm told that there's nothing alive, okay? There's nothing alive there. And you have to guess within, a short period of time of what that tool is. All right, so maybe with that, Pastor Sean. Let's get Pastor Sean out. Let's give a round of applause for Pastor Sean. All right, Ken. All right, okay. You want me to hold your glasses? Okay, it's good. Right, so the first one, okay? The first one, all right? Everyone know what it is? Okay, Pastor Sean. Okay, what is it? What is it? All right, touch it. Oh, you're touching Kareem's hand now. Okay, all right, enough. What is it? What is it?
Feels like a brush that paints the paint,
Yeah.
the paint roller.
Yeah. it's a paint roller. A paint roller. Okay, perfect. Well done. That was an easy one.
I thought it's Kareem's hair.
That was Kareem's hair, yeah. All right, dresser. We have dresser next. Okay. Ken? All right, come on. Sorry about the hair.
Looks the same between the two.
All right, hold your mic. Yeah. You hold your mic one hand. Wait, this mic. Okay. All right. Okay. All right. No. Okay. Nothing alive. Okay, what is that? What is it? A bit metallic. Can you feel what color is it? All right. What is that?
Don't know what is it called. Maybe it's the one to put the glue to.
Yes. Come on. I think the official term is a chalking gun. Chalking gun. Yes. I think that's what
Not
it is.
even in my vocabulary bag. Right?
All right, last. We have Ben. Okay, thanks for letting down. Right, I think this is the hard one. Right? Okay, yes. All right, okay, come. What is this? All right, okay, what is it?
It feels like a vice.
A vice.
A clamp?
Yes. Correct. A clamp. A vice clamp. You clamp the wood on the table. All right. Were you surprised by any of it? Like all the surprise? Yeah.
I don't know.
I
Seldom.
apologize. I was late, and I'm sorry because I missed the pre-game or pre-service briefing. So I'm surprised by the whole game.
All right, it's all
I
good.
had no idea what was happening.
It's all good. And you know, like part of the game is it's the element of surprise, right? You're blindfolded and you kind of are touching something. And sometimes I feel like, you know, me, especially with one of the newer dads, going into fatherhood is a surprise. And one of the greatest surprise that I have is how I can survive with no sleep at all. Like that's one of the greatest surprises. I'm still alive without sleep. And so maybe the first question is, what is the one thing that really surprised you about being a father? So, right, we'll start with Pastor Sean.
I remember when I first became a father, I was surprised by how tiring and exhausting that it can be. I thought that we mentally prepare, we go through work, changes in work and different things, but I was surprised by just how tiring and exhausting it was. Okay, so that was my
First, right. What about you, Jeff?
I'm opposite. I'm very grateful because I heard so much about being so tired, not able to sleep. But I'm grateful for my wife and airport.
Sorry,
Airport.
airport.
Because my wife took care of the kids and I wear airport and put silent.
Wow.
So my wife allowed me to do that. So she had
Okay,
a good
okay,
rest
come
so
on.
that
Yeah.
you can work next day.
Yes.
So really, my wife really take very good care. And really, the whole 3 kids,
So good.
I've changed few versions of airport and just getting better and better. Right? So thank God for that. Yeah. Of course, that's one. And second, I think before I became a father, even since a teenager, I don't like to go home. Always I would just run out from home. Midnight, I will sneak out from home. Right, teenagers. I don't like to be at home, right? But after I became a father, I always want to go home.
Yes.
I want to see my kids. So I think that was also a big surprise to myself, right?
Wow. Okay. What about you, Ben?
I was surprised by how selfish I am. I really had no idea. I mean, marriage changes you a little bit in that regard, but having a kid definitely changes you. And I was also surprised by how selfless my wife was. She did all the heavy lifting back in the day while I was still learning how to be a responsible adult. So
Yeah. That's a really great one. I think, Joshua, your one is very similar to Pastor Kel. I think we're quite similar because I remember when we were in the hospital and, the baby is perfect in the hospital. So whoever is going to be a father, the baby is perfect in the hospital. It's the moment you bring it home and it's like, it's asleep at 11, it'll be awake by 12. And I'm like, why is this baby not sleeping? Like, why is this baby not sleeping? So that's part of it. But I think what Ben says is also really powerful. Like, you never realize how selfish you are and what you have to actually give up and sacrifice for a baby. Like coming home early, giving up, work and everything. I think that's such a powerful thing that you mentioned.
I was also surprised by how not scared I was of changing diapers. Much better than I thought it would be.
Yeah, my wife too. She was like prepared. Like I'm gonna have gag reflex and everything. But then she kind of got through it as well. But I think one of the most surprising thing for me was actually their ability to imitate us. And it was just a couple of days back. I work from home quite a lot. So if people ask me what I do, I spend like 90% of my day in a meeting. So it's headphones, talking to someone. And then it was after dinner, my son just decided to go up my desk. He took the headphones and he was looking at me and my wife very seriously and he said, "Don't disturb me. I'm in a meeting." It's like, I'm going to go to work, I'm going to the office, you two stay at home and I'll come back to you, which is exactly what I say to him. And it just made me realize, if my son imitates me on such a minute detail, which is something I don't realize, how much will he imitate me on the things that I say? Especially on the way that I worship, on the way that I do my devotion, on the way that I talk to my wife, to the people around me. And that's something that I become very conscious as a father. Say, well, if I want my child to be anchored in the gospel, he's going to imitate me. So maybe a question to all three of you, how have you taken that imitation in terms of getting your children to imitate you in your faith? We'll start with Ben.
Yeah, this is a tricky one because pastors' kids and missionary kids have sort of this reputation of either being like excellent and super in their faith or the exact opposite. And so I would say in terms of imitation, not consciously, but just serving and giving into the church and going on mission trips and things like that. But to the extent that that becomes a job, then I think that's where the kids can go south with it. So, yeah, I don't know that I consciously did a good job of that. Praise God, she turned out okay. This morning in her letter, she actually wrote something to the effect of, a lot of people derive their image of who God is by looking at their father, their earthly father. And I'm grateful, she said, for how you pointed me in the right direction, which is what you pray for, but it's not a guarantee. So
Yeah, that's a great one. Joshua, what about you?
All right, so for me, in fact, this morning or yesterday, different church, I preached the same message. I was in worship for 10 years, but I also want to bring up one interesting fact. I was in worship, I think big reason because of Kel and our PC. Because the first time I went to the church, they were the one who worshiping. Right? So I said, wow, I wish one day, that's why be careful what you wish for. Really? And I served in worship for 10 years after. But I think when the day I was, when I was become like a lead worship, I just asked for a message from God. So this message, I told the whole team that time in Every Nation Petaling Jaya, I said, your life is worship. Your life is worship. 生命就是敬拜. So your life is worship, not just Sunday, but everything we do, not just during worship, but everything we do, how we treat our boss, our staff, our colleague, our wife, our kids, our friends, even a stranger. It is a worship, right? I always inspired by a lot of church brothers or sisters when the way they work is so great, so excellent. And when I tell them, I say, to me, it's a worship to God. You may not see relation, but whatever I do it for God. So that's inspiring. So that I try to imitate that type of faith. Right? Whatever I do, I try to imitate the faith, the way I treat people. So I'm glad today I see the Father's Day, the video they record all the kids, right? They say, oh, my dad is very kind. He's always good to people. So that's, I'm happy that I'm trying everything I do. And I always also tell my friends, the new father, I say, our kids won't listen to what we say, but they will listen to what we do, right? They'll listen to what we do, right? I say, don't be integrity, but then when the police stop you, you give bribe. Then that's what they see, I say, they will follow, right? So, that's what I do. In short, my life is worship. I just try my best to see everything I do, the way I treat everyone like a worship.
Wow, this is really powerful. Life is worship. Pastor John.
You also wish to be a pastor, also, right? Anyways, for me, I think it's really bringing God into whatever situation intentionally. So whenever they go through certain things, we intentionally sometimes we don't know the answer, right? So we intentionally bring them and say, you know what, we don't know what's best, but why don't we seek God in this situation? So I remember there was one time with my eldest daughter when she was, 9, 10 years old. There was a sort of like a bullying situation in school, but not too harmful in the sense that we had to step in. But we asked her to come together and say, let's pray and ask God, what should God do in this? What should you ask God to do in this situation? And from that prayer, a couple of hours later, she came and tells us that, we prayed, and then she felt that, why don't I gather a few of my friends, and whenever this child will tell one of them who is stupid or idiot, the 4 or 5 of them will kind of gang up and tell him that this is not right. So kind of bring God into that situation. And I think recently, my eldest son, we had a decision that we wanted to make because he is playing football, so we are deciding school and things like that. We said that, you know what, we don't really know what path is good, but why don't we invite God into this situation? And then I, in turn, also share my testimony, how God has led me through my journey in life, whether it's career change and full-time and whatnot. And I think for us, it's really bringing God into whatever situation that they face so that they experience God in small and big ways for themselves. That's for me.
Wow, this is really, really powerful. So talking about imitation, we're going to go into our next game called charades. Okay, if you don't know the game charades, they are going to act out something, and it's something along the lines of what dads usually do to teach their kids about something. Okay, so it's along those lines. So maybe Joshua, we'll start with you. Yeah, you act. So
okay.
the assistant will give you the word. Don't need the mic, and then everyone else in the audience will guess. Okay, everyone else in the audience will guess. Come, can step here. Okay. Okay. All right. Five word. How catch. How to catch a fish. Why? Joshua, you're like a charades pro, man. No one did that this morning. No one did that this morning. All right, Ben. All right, let's get Ben here. Okay, all right. Go for it.
Love.
Oh, Lord. Khi gọi là
Worship.
và
Wow. Love, respect.
pregnant.
Love and respect. Dance.
Yo.
Love and respect your marriage.
Loved ones. Yeah. Whoa, that was a hard one. That was a hard one. You did well, man. So well. Woo! Round of applause. All right.
Not 10 seconds.
Lastly, we have Pastor Sean. Okay, come. Okay. Pastor Sean, yeah, you got this. All right, go.
Watch.
Coward. Yes, okay. Woo! Oh, wonderful. Oh, I have to do also? Okay. Oh man, don't give me a hard one. Come on. All right, okay. All right, everyone ready? Okay. Tie a knot. Yes. Whew. That was hard. That's hard. Well done to everybody. Give them a round of applause again. All right. Okay, a lot of times, as fathers, we want to teach our kids something, right? We want them to be something or teach something, but they don't listen, which happens a lot of times. And sometimes as fathers, we accidentally or maybe intentionally provoke or hurt our child. So maybe can you talk through a time where you did something or said something that actually provoked or hurt your child? How did you resolve it? And what would you have done differently? I will start with Pastor Sean.
Okay. I guess the most recent example would be maybe somewhere end of last year. I think the kids were outside in the living room. They were fighting. I guess it has been the whole day of just various tension and various fighting. And because of that, our emotion, our temper margin is low.
Yep.
And somehow I think the last straw, somebody said something, somebody did something or throw something and causes the two younger ones to be shouting. And I think it has something to do with ice cream, okay? So carrying the last ice cream or biscuit or something like that. So I was upset, I lost my temper, and I stood up, and my elder son walked in with his ice cream in his mouth, okay? And I just immediately assumed that it was him that provoked the younger two to cry. So I took the ice cream, I grabbed the ice cream from his mouth, and I threw it into the dustbin. Okay, just throw it angrily. Okay, so
Wow.
yes. Okay, so I do it not very often. Okay, only once a week. No, I'm just kidding. But as I throw it into the dustbin, obviously I feel a little bit guilty.
Yeah.
And my son was obviously shocked. And I went upstairs, and later I found out that my elder son was just happened to come down from the stairs at the wrong time, the wrong place.
Yeah.
Okay, he was not involved at all in what's happening in the living room. So I knew that I had to go up to him and apologize. And I think that by apologizing to him, I said, okay, let me buy you 5 more ice cream. No, I'm just kidding. But basically, I apologized. I lost my temper. I did not clarify. And obviously, he forgave me. But there was something that I remember that I did potentially that hurt my eldest son.
Yeah.
Just happened to be at the wrong place at the wrong time.
Wow, thanks for sharing.
What would I do differently?
Yeah, what would
Maybe
you
I
do?
throw the ice cream out the wall.
Eat it.
In anger, right?
In anger. Cool you down. Maybe eat the ice cream first. All right, Ben, what about you?
Yeah, to an extent, I think I reject the premise of the question in that. So I don't think as fathers we should be starting the fight. I think a lot of what our regrets that we feel in our heart is when we're responding to something, right?
Yeah.
And it's okay to discipline your children. And I think, especially as a school teacher, these days it's become unpopular to discipline your children. And that has to change. So that said, in terms of regrets in my life, I can't think of a time where I intentionally started a fight with my daughter. I'm sure they have happened, so I should give the microphone to her because she probably has a list. But I think Pastor Sean hit the nail on the head is just act like an adult, and if you mess up, you apologize.
Yeah.
Like own your mistakes and treat them with that level of respect. A big part of raising a child, not just as a child, but as a teacher or whatnot, is they will, if they feel seen and respected by you, then they will see and respect whatever you're trying to speak into their lives. And so just be a man, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Own your mistakes and move forward.
Absolutely. Thank you. Treasure.
Thank you. Interestingly, recently, in me and my daddy camp, I asked my daughter this question: did I do anything that hurt you or provoke you? So I asked her this question. So she cannot remember a specific incident. She just said, whenever you raise your voice, then my elder is very easy to cry one. So when she says she already crying, so I said, can you say an incident that I did that? She said, I cannot remember, but she cannot remember for herself. She remember I raised my voice for my second daughter. So there was once, I don't know why I have this is my hot button, not even my kid, even my wife, I remember, okay, this incident was she threw my book, one of the book, and also a gift from a friend, another book, but I don't know, I just somehow, I respect knowledge. I said, you shouldn't treat the book like that, right? She just threw, while playing, he just simply take my book and throw, and then it's spoiled. So I was very angry, right? And last time my wife also did that once. She just draw something on my book only. I was very angry. She highlighted my book and was very angry. So anyway, there was another issue. And Mother's Day, we talk about it. Valentine, we talk about it.
Valentine's Day.
So this one is my daughter. So I was so angry. So I just raised voice and I scolded her and I tell her, it's wrong. I was so angry, and then of course she was very scared. Then my elder daughter was not involved; she was just watching it, but she was scared also. So and she remembered that. So then, of course, after that I tell her why I'm so angry. I said because I felt that the book is knowledge. You should respect it and not just throw it like that. Of course, then after that we resolved. I give her a hug and tell her I do that because I want you to learn. Then I'm sorry if I scolded, it's too loud and you're scared. So that was how I resolved. If I do it differently, I prepared this question. I told my wife this in the car. I said, can you help me to answer this one? I said, then I said, I think I will still call her. I will still be angry. Of course, I mean, ideally, I say, I shouldn't raise my voice. But I think, I was not like angry and hit her and all that. I just loud only. I just raised my voice. But I think I will do it the same because maybe not so loud only, just to let her know how serious this is. Because if I really, in the car, I rehearse, if I go back, if I tell her, you know what, Zoe, you shouldn't do that, I think she'll keep doing it. She will not get it, but she know that how serious I am.
Yeah.
I think I just need to tone down, not too loud, but too firm to let her know that this is wrong and serious,
Yeah.
that this is not happy and this is wrong. So that's, I will tone down lah. I will still scold her.
Yes.
So that's what my
Yes,
answer.
I think like Ben said, right, there is a moment of discipline that is required. And I don't think that's what this is referring to. I think it's really referring to when we get angry. And I realized that as well. Even though my son is 3 years old, I usually work. My wife spends the day with him, so I try to make an effort to put him to bed. But him not seeing me for the whole day does not want to go to bed. And I'm exhausted. Right? I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm just exhausted. Go to sleep. Like, why won't you go to sleep? And I think it just happened a couple weeks ago. And I was like, you know what? You put yourself to sleep. And I just went out. And then immediately you could hear him cry. And I knew what I was doing to a certain degree. I knew I wanted to kind of provoke him because I'm like, you're not listening to me. So the only thing I can get you to listen is that if I provoke you and make you cry. And then I felt so bad. Like, immediately you throw the ice cream, you feel bad already, right? You're like, you want to do it, but then you do it, and like you feel bad. And I was just then praying to God, and I was like, asking God, like, why would I want to behave like that? What is it that I cannot accept of my 3-year-old son who hasn't seen me all day, who doesn't want to sleep, that make me want to provoke him? And I just felt like God was telling me, because you want him to be perfect. I think a lot of time, like we come from a perspective, I think fathers, like we want our sons or daughters to be perfect because in their perfection, it reflects you as the perfect father. And I just felt God tell me, no, you cannot make them perfect by provoking them or making them angry because only I can make them perfect. And I just felt that there was such a hit to me to say, yes, I need to show them. But I really like that this question is moving to the point of discipline because I think there is a difference between discipline, which brings us to the next game, and I will get my assistant a game. All right. Okay, so this game is called Hammer and Nail. So you're going to hold the hammer in one hand, and you are going to hammer the nail in as little strikes as possible. Okay, as little strikes as possible. Pastor Kel have the record of 2 strikes this morning. There's another record that probably you don't want to break is someone broke the wood. So let's try not to do that this time. All right, so maybe I will get Ben to come up and hammer this. All right. All right, hold your microphone. All right. All right, okay. Jesus is like... All right. Oh, you missed? Whoa! Come on. That was 2 strikes, 1 hit and a miss. All right. Joshua, come.
I did dent the wood. That's worth noting.
You did dent the wood? It's okay. Joshua, the nail destroyed your book. Oh, close. Oh, okay, all right, 3 hits. Well done. Thank you. All right. Come on, Pastor Sean. Show us the Holy Spirit strength. Oh. Oh. All right, well done. All right, I think Ben got that. 2 hits. It could have been 1 if you hit it on the right time. All right, and we play this game because sometimes discipline is like a hammer, and if you hit it too soft, I don't know if Pastor Sean hit it too soft, but yours kind of went sang it a bit sideways. It becomes loose, or it might even fall out. But if you hit it too hard, it might just go through and even to a certain degree break the wood. So, can you share what is one healthy approach that you take in disciplining your child? that differs from what the world says about discipline and punishment? Josh, maybe we'll start with you.
All right, I have actually a huge challenge on this even when my wife started pregnant, I always say, hey, we need to attend parenting course already, right? Because there's so many ways. And okay, easier, once it's biblical, non-biblical, then already cut off, right? Non-biblical, we don't follow. Even the biblical, there's so many school of thoughts, you know. Yeah. So then I call Pastor Sean and say, Pastor Sean, what should I follow? Then he recommend me this teaching your child the God's way. Right, yeah. It's a philosophy and book, right? So when you did that, we bought the video, we bought the book and read. So I think that was great. So simple techniques that we used was, I think if I didn't learn, I think I will go with what my dad or my mom did to me, which definitely they are not taught as well. Maybe that's how their father do it to them. So I think one thing is that definitely we want to discipline, we will and we want to discipline. And according to the teaching is that you can start discipline 18 months onwards. Yep. I said, oh, really? So small only? Because before 18 months, what do? Just make sure they survive more. Because so fragile, right? Yeah. So, but the concept of discipline is actually not like hit until they are very pain, you know. Just like even, can I use your example? Yeah. Give me your hand. And then you even like that. You just tell them it's wrong. Of course, as they grow older, it's stronger. But this one, second is that you use something. Because in our teaching, don't use hand. Just use anything, a pen or something. Why? Because they say, when they're so small, they don't know what is right or wrong. If you raise your hand is to love them, and your hand is also to discipline. So they don't know what are you trying to do. So they're confused. So you just take something and you just do that. And they know. I remember my baby, 2 years old, 1.5. I tell them, this is wrong. Then they will cry. They know you are disciplining them, right? They know it. Yeah. Of course, when they grow older, you need to stronger let them feel. Yeah. But don't need until last time, our parents' time, until
scar
bleeding, then only consider discipline, right? So I think, and third step is the most important, is after you do that, you must tell them why you do that. Yes. And very important is that daddy or mommy did that because we love you, and you cut them. So I think that is so important. I think, and I don't know whether it's Chinese or Asian teaching. We usually don't do that. After angry, we hit and then we go. Right? I think that will leave a void in the heart. Yeah. So, and one more very important disclaimer is don't do that when you're angry. So, but of course, we will always, when I first hear this principle, I say, of course, when I'm angry, only I hit them. If not, what for I discipline them? Yeah. But they say the principle is that when I say don't do this, straight away if they do, they'll discipline. But for us, last time is, don't do this, then they do again. Don't do, do again. Don't do, do, then you want to hit them already, right? So when they say don't do, you just discipline, right? Yeah. If you're really angry, say it's easy, in practice very hard. But if I'm really angry, I ask my wife, tell them the situation, let them do it. When she's angry, she tell me, okay, she tell me the situation, then okay, then I will discipline. Of course, saying it's easy, at the actual one, you fail many times. But we do our best, at least there's a guideline. So I think, thanks to Pastor John recommended what is the God's way, right? Of the principle. Yeah. That's
right. Maybe we round out the Asian style first, Pastor Sean. Then we go to the American, Canadian style.
I remember, it was probably 1.5 to 2 years old, especially my eldest son. I remember there was a situation whereby it was the battle of the will. Okay, so I feel that I think we were coming down, and he would say good morning to the grandma, but that morning, and he just refused to say good morning. Okay, so he refused, and I feel that time I was carrying him. It was the battle of the will, and I feel that I need to win this battle. 2 years old. Okay, so it's more of just to establish who is the authority in that sense. So it was a standoff for 15 minutes. He just said, no, you say good morning. He doesn't want to refuse good morning. And finally, after he said good morning, and I feel that most of the time, it was okay, as he grows. I think there was a metaphor that speaks about if we don't discipline them when they're young, by the time they're 16-year-old, you are trying to discipline an oak tree, right? It's so difficult. So of course, as parents, we discipline them out of love. And the Bible says that the Lord discipline those He loves. I don't discipline my neighbor's children because they are not my children, right? Yeah. So I think when they're young, you establish, like what Joashua said, first time obedience. You establish why, and you Of course, there's a saying that says that without the rules must come with relationship. Okay, without relationship, the rule becomes legalistic,
Yeah.
becomes rebellion, right? So I think with the relationship, you affirm them, you show them the consequence, and always discipline in private. For us, we always discipline in private. We help them understand the consequence. So when you, for my experience, when you do it right or towards the right way when they're younger, it is so much easier when they're older. Yeah, that's it just for me.
Thank you. Ben.
I kind of cheat in this area. For a lot of us men, especially bigger guys, we don't know how scary we are.
Yeah.
Especially if you're just surrounded by men most of the day, you don't really pick up on it. And so for me, discipline, like the only time in her life she's been terrified of me is when she was maybe a year old and I sneezed. and I have a dad sneeze, admittedly,
Yeah.
but she like was terrified. Like she thought the world was ending. But I have never yelled at her. She will say to me quite often, "Dad, why are you yelling at me?" And I say, "You will know when I start yelling at you. It has not happened yet." So it's never really come to a place where I have to lay down the law. Now, her mother, on the other hand, has had to do that quite a bit. And so I cheat. And just by virtue of being a 105 kilogram to 190 centimeter dude, right? I cheat.
Yeah.
There's a word on the question punishment, and I do think it's important for us to understand child developmental psychology. Kids are not little adults. They're neurologically different than us. There are parts of their brain that do not exist yet. And if you are disciplining someone under the age of, say, 13 years old, their capacity for abstract reasoning is very, very limited because that part of their brain hasn't grown yet. That's the medial frontal or prefrontal cortex. And so I think you hit it right on when you're talking about disciplining them early, especially with punishment is the word up there. We like to use the word consequences. So you have consequences, and that can be a punishment, it can be negative reinforcement, it can be other ways of doing things. But a consequence for their action that is immediate and visceral, and they know that this is because they did this, cause and effect, because they're in this stage called concrete operational or concrete pre-operational, where it has to be right then and it has to be connected to the action. So you can't skimp on consequences when a kid is young. Of course, you have conversations with them about, I'm doing this because I love you. We call that instructive discipline, where you're instructing them, this is why this happened, this is how you don't let that happen again. But again, if you're dealing with a little kid under the age of 13 years old probably, they're not going to get that. They won't understand. You have to do it a lot and over many years. And hopefully if you start when they're 10 or 11, by the time they're 13, they've figured that out. But it takes years because it's just like any other muscle, right? You have to lift and it gets bigger. Same with their brain, right? As they work that part of their brain, it will become stronger. The last is restorative, and this is a really big thing in education right now, restorative discipline. And how do we discipline a child so that they know they're still a part of our community? And I think as a parent, and you said it comes down to relationship, and is this done in relationship? That should never be a question. That kid should know that they are always yours and you are always theirs. And so any discipline that takes place is done knowing that you have their best intention in mind. And as people of faith, we have probably all of us at some point, especially if you live long enough, have shaken our fist at the sky and said, God, why? Why are you doing this? And we've doubted God's love. And those times will come with our children too, and they may doubt our love for them. But just reinforcing that relationship is super important.
So that's so
if
powerful.
I may just add one quick one, I just come into my mind. I think one thing is that we don't discipline out of innocence. Means that if they accidentally pour water, we don't discipline that. I think a lot of time, including myself, sometimes we also confuse whether, because the emotions still come, right? Things still mess up. So me and my wife just really try to discern very clearly if they innocent. So I remember one time I was in a restaurant, then one of my child just accidentally poured something, but a mess lah. But I was very patient. I said, it's okay, I know you don't mean it. Then after I did, the next day, there's an uncle, one old man come over and say, young man, you're very patient, very good. So that taught me another thing, that it's also good to also, if you see somebody do a good job, even if you don't know them, you can also praise them, right? It made me feel very good. Wow, sounds like I'm a very good father. Like that. So, but yeah, someone said, oh, you also tell me that, hey, if you see someone do a great thing, you also can praise them, even the stranger. Yeah, so anyway.
I think Pastor Sean.
I just want to add that the good thing about parenting is that we can bring God into the picture. I remember there was one time where my daughter, they have screen limit time, and as she continued to extend or rather push the boundary of screen time and causes frustration, and there was one time after many times she has continued to do this, and then my wife asked her, why don't you follow, why don't you listen in this area? And she blurted out, I cannot help myself. Right, so then that's where we were able to bring in the gospel and grace. It's the same as us, right? Sometimes we cannot help ourselves but to get angry. We cannot help ourselves to be addicted to this. And we say, yes, Mommy, Papa know that you cannot help yourself. That's why we need God to help us. So rather than, keep disciplining and all that, we can bring the grace and the gospel of God. Say, of course you cannot help yourself. Or of course you cannot help yourself being selfish or being this. It says, why don't we ask God to help you in this area of self-control? And then we bring in the grace of God, the gospel of God, and pray along. I think that's something powerful that we should always tap into in the parenting.
It's really powerful, because I think for me, if you ask between my wife and me, I'm definitely the more stricter one. And again, back to the whole point of perfection, right? Like, my life needs to be perfect. That's why my kids need to be perfect. But I think what changed is really that grace. Like the grace that I see that I receive. If I can receive that grace, can I show grace? And I think grace is not just a point where, you just let them be. Because letting a behavior go on is not grace. That's punishment to a certain degree, because you are actually pointing in a direction for them or for their life. Grace is if you correct, if you discipline. But you don't discipline to a point that they are wild animals. They're not. They're kids. There's certain things they understand, there's certain things they don't understand, but they're not to be trained in a perfect manner. And I think that's actually what every one of you are saying, right? That grace, how do we bring, ultimately, the way that we are different from the world is we bring that grace into the way that we discipline and ultimately point them back to the grace that they receive, they can find in God. Right, so we are going to move to a last one, and this is the one I'm really looking forward to, because we are going to get the dads here, and hopefully, I don't know, Ben, if you're prepared, but to share a dad joke. And you can be the judge of who has the best dad joke, or whatever criteria you put on it for that. You can, and then we can decide. So I think Pastor Sean is a pro at this with 4 kids. And a pastor. So we'll start with
We're supposed
Pastor
to
Sean.
prepare 2, right?
Yeah, 2.
Yeah, my kid always asks people, what is one cold joke?
What is one
As in
cold
cold.
joke? Okay, yeah.
Sejuk.
So joke.
It's a Malay word for cold, okay? Sejuk.
Okay, that's really good. All right, we go to the next one.
Okay,
Yeah,
my one is not a dad's joke, it's a Father's Day joke. Not sure it's a church friendly or not, but I can say. It's actually an advertisement, so it's a US advertisement. So he says, to all those who use our competitors' product, Happy Father's Day from Durex. Yeah, it's a condom brand. He said, to all those who use our competitors' product, Happy Father's Day. Yeah. Actually, this day is 20 years ago, and I still remember. It's so funny. The first time I see it is a Father's Day joke, like, but not for kids. Not for kids.
All right, Ben.
Can I do a long format one?
You can. You absolutely can.
So this is a hunting story. Hopefully you guys aren't offended. Don't worry, no baby animals die in this. But me and my dad are going out to hike the tree line to figure out where to set up our tree stand for deer opener. There's more deer than people where I come from, so we go deer hunting. So as we're hiking the tree line, we come across this big hole in the ground, like 10 feet across and deep. Can't see the bottom. It's that deep. So I'm younger back then. I said, wow, I wonder how deep this is. My dad goes, I don't know. Picks up a little rock and throws it into the hole and plinks off the side a few times, but no splash, no thud, no bottom. Oh, this has got to be a deep hole. Let's find something bigger. So we get this boulder that together we kind of heft over to the hole and heave into the hole, and it cracks off the side a few times, but no splash, no thud, no bottom. Oh, challenge accepted, right? Let's find something bigger. So we split up and go into the woods, and we come across this huge log, like a felled tree, basically. And together we drag the log over to the hole, prop the log up, slide the log into the hole, and it cracks off the side a few times, but no splash, no thud, no bottom. Well, now we're scratching our heads, wondering if we just dropped this log on some kid on the other side of the planet, and we hear a rustling in the bushes behind us, and turn around, just in time to see a goat come tearing out of the woods and dive headlong into the hole. And now, like, mind blown, right? We're trying to figure out the goat and the hole in the log and what's going on. And the farmer whose property we're on comes walking up and says, hey, boys, can you do me a favor? Yeah, what's up, Doug? What's going on? Well, I seem to have misplaced my goat. We just saw a goat come tearing out of the woods and dive into this hole. Couldn't have been my goat. My goat was chained to a log.
Is it a true
I think-
story?
I think we have a winner. All right, but there's no real goats in this. Okay,
Fake.
okay, all right. That's
Don't
really,
trust anything I
that's
say.
Really, that's a
How
really
deep
good
is the hole?
I was very invested in how deep is the hole. That's a really good one. All right, sometimes we make dad jokes, and I try to make dad jokes to Jasper as much as I can understand, but ultimately it is about wanting to leave an impression with them, right? Like, hey, my dad is fun and all these things, but I think as dads who have the faith, one of the things that I would hope that you want to kind of leave with your children is a godly principle. So the question is, what is one godly principle that you have taught your child that you hope will be passed down to their future generation? So what is one thing? So maybe I'll start with Joash.
What one principle?
Yes, what is one godly principle that you have taught your child that you hope will be passed down to their future generation?
Godly principle. Okay, I think since young, but now one of my girl 10, I think turning teen, we may, I just give them 3 key words. But of course, those are biblical based. We just say obedient, honest, respectful. Because I think when they're young, cannot remember so many words. So I say, okay, this is just 3 values I want. Anything out of this, anything that you're not aligned to this, we will discipline you, right? So obedient, honest, respectful. Because everyone got a verse to back it up, right? But we don't go through so deep with them. First, just say, okay, just remember these 3 words, very easy. But I think we realize as they grow, teenager may be different. Need to change a little bit of different already. Maybe it's responsible. Me and my wife still discussing, hey, we need to have a teen version already. This is a kids version, right?
Yeah.
So, but I think one thing is probably memorizing verse. There's something great. I think a good season of the kids, my wife will teach them every night, teach them John 10:10, and do some sign and remember the verse. Then after a while we stop, and then now I think it becomes like my daughter, let's say Zoe, 7 years old, will say, hey, you know what, I just memorized this verse. Then she will tell me this verse that she learned from the church Sunday school. Then after 2 weeks, she said, I still can remember the verse, right? Then she shared the verse to me. So I felt that is so important, right? So in fact, I'm also learning memorizing verse, right, all this time. Because I'm of course reading this book called The 100 Verse That You Should Remember. And talking about this pastor, he said, when he was young, it's actually he do it because of a trait. Because Sunday school, if you memorize this verse, you can get this trait, right? But I say he keep doing it until a while. Of course, he just become part of his habit. But I say every verse has so deeply profound touch in his life. So he's saying basically you have hundreds ways to change your life, right? I mean, different verses has different ways to change your life. So I thought that is so good I hope this will continue that every of our children to memorize verses and know what is their anchor verse in life, and during good time, bad time, every season in life, this is the words that is rooted
Yeah.
in God. And even in my work, I say, okay, in my career, ministry, these three is like three roots that create the fruit, right? And of course, all these roots is all biblical verse.
Yeah.
Then in my family, I say, okay, John 10:10, 1 Corinthians 13, Jeremiah 29:11. This is our roots. So this is what we constantly practice, what we continually share. And I hope that is something that they will bring it down, that they always, in their life, in their work, in their relationship, they are always rooted in God's words. That is my hope for them.
Wonderful. Ben?
Yeah, I said I don't have any regrets when it comes to discipline. I have regrets in this area, and I wish I would have done more here. So this is an area where my faith is more cerebral, and so if there's anything I pass down to her, I mean, there's a lot of things I wish I would have passed down. Like memorizing verses is huge. I mean, that's how Jesus rebuked the devil, was with memorized scripture. But if there's one thing I think I know I passed down, it would be that God is, and that He rewards those who seek Him earnestly. That you can have confidence in God, especially for young people as they go out into a world that doesn't believe in God. Having confidence that God is real and is worth pursuing, I think is...
It's really perfect. Thank you. Pastor Sean?
For me, I think it will be trusting God in the midst of life choices or uncertainty. Whenever faced with different decisions, whether, sometimes we can think that the decisions that they're going through, it's so small, but it's big to them.
Yeah.
Right? For a 10-year-old, it's big to them whether they drop this class or that class. For a 16-year-old, it's big whether they go to science stream or commerce stream. So I think in all these season, we try to bring in, why don't we pray, because God knows best. We have our desire, we have our option, we have our thoughts, but why don't we pray? And because God knows His plans for us is always perfect. So it's always that principle to seek God and trust God in the midst of uncertainty and life choices. Yeah, that's for me.
Wow, that's powerful. Just to anchor on what Pastor Sean said, we had Seeping this morning. and we asked this question, and he said his godly principle is to traumatize his kids. Because he said he doesn't want to, shield them from the trauma of what real world is. And I think that's the funny side, but I think I really kind of took that on for me because last week my son had, he's 3 years old, so he had a bacterial infection. And it was at the same time I was actually in Melbourne for work. So Monday night, Monday morning, actually, we realized it was a bit swelling, so we went to the clinic and gave some medicine, ate the medicine, felt better. I'm like, okay, I can sit on this plane, I'll go. And the moment I landed, and there was no Wi-Fi on the plane, I turned on my phone. My wife told me, hey, he has a second face here. It was like just swelled up, and they had to go to hospital. And at that moment, I was like, wow, my company paid so much money for me to come to Melbourne, and now it's like, just go back. And it's not even the matter of just going back, because I called the agent, and it's like, I need the first flight back. It's like, there's no flight no more out of Melbourne. Tomorrow, there's a flight. And I think it was that moment where I felt powerless. I was, Melbourne is like 6,000 miles away. There was no way, like boats or anything, I could have been there coming back personally. And even though the next day I managed to do some work, I got on the flight in the afternoon, came back at night on Wednesday night, there was still nothing that I could do for him. We were still dependent on the doctors, the nurses, the medicine and everything. And all we just had to do was wait. And it just came to a point where the doctors say, there's no point waiting. Let's make a minor surgery so that we can kind of, accelerate the healing because it would complicate things more. And it was really at that moment when I saw my son go into the operating theater where I started to realize this thing where, wow, I think as a father, we have a tendency to want to solve the situation. Right, like we come in, I was in Melbourne, I was like, okay, I can't be there, but let me call the hospital, I'll arrange all the insurance and everything is going to be great. And when I came back, it's like, okay, let me make sure my wife and everything. But when he went into the operating theater, I knew I had nothing that I can contribute to that perspective. And I was just praying to God, and I was just, even to my mind, like, I'm a person who thinks about the worst case scenario, to my demise. And the first thing I think is, what if he doesn't come out of that operating theater? He's 3 years old, right? They're going to put him under general anesthetic. And immediately I just felt God tell me, Josh, it's great that you think like that because you're a father, but you have to realize that nothing you do, you can never do, will ever save your son. Not in the physical sense, but in a spiritual sense. No education, no best medical devices, no best doctor can ever save my son from an eternal damnation. And that just hits me. Then I was like, then what happens? God say, but you have to realize that there is a father that loves your son more than you can ever love as a father. And so the godly principle, then I realized, and I was telling my wife in the hospital, the thing that I want my son to realize as early as it is right now is, your dad is great, your dad is pretty strong, but I can never save you. I can never give you even the right ingredients, materials, education, anything to save you. But there's one who can save, and it's the one who died on the cross for you. And regardless, if he understands that, wherever he is, right, he can be far away from God, he can be near God, whatever it is. And I always think about, when David made a covenant with God, or God made a covenant with him, he said that I will bless your generations. Not in a sense where, they'll always serve me, but even if they leave me, as long as they come back and call me Heavenly Father, I will respond and I will rescue them. That is, to me, a father. And, even as we end today, I hope you see that fatherhood is great. It's fun, it's tiring, maybe. But fatherhood is only a glimpse of what the true father is. The father who loved us so much that he sent his son to die on the cross for us, because he knew that we can never, ever save ourselves. And so I think when you think about fatherhood, think about an opportunity to step even just a minute distance in what the Father distance, and then receive that grace and receive that love. And I really want you to live with that. You can be a great father. There's great fathers here, but more importantly, there's a heavenly Father who's going to save your children, who's going to save you, who's going to save everyone because he died on the cross. So with that, can we give a round of applause for all our panelists here?